What's going on, Military Cashflow family? How's it going, Mike?
It's going all right, man. This morning I was woken up at 2 a.m. because somebody set something on fire in the parking garage, bro.
Lord Jesus, there's a fire.
Well, I know it. We was outside, it was so loud, so annoying. But no, man, today's been good. I'm blessed. After all of that kind of settled down, I've been starting working on golfing. I haven't golfed ever in my life, and now I've been golfing a total of 4 times, or at least I went to hit golf balls 4 times. But I'm really enjoying it, man. And it started off as like a networking thing, but I'm actually getting a little bit low-key addicted to trying to figure out how the hell to hit that damn ball, man. It is so challenging. But besides that, man, just focusing on golf and running into businesses, man. What about yourself?
That's good stuff, man. That's good stuff, dude. I suck at golf, man. They say there's like 2 sports that's kind of ageless sports, and one is golf, right? You can golf at any age. Another one that's a little bit less talked about is jujitsu, right? So that's one of those. I guess that's my ageless sport that I'll probably do. I like jits, man, and I'm trying to get a little bit better at that as well myself. So yeah, man, it's good stuff. But nothing too much on this end. Just going through the daily rigmarole, if you will. Just staying patient, and not really, honestly, nothing too interesting. I mean, we got some soccer games going on. My kids are playing soccer. My kids are doing jiu-jitsu, so life is good right now. And nothing to complain, nothing super new. We're just in the battle rhythm and we're doing it. I guess actually I got one little thing. So I got a new property manager it's not a new property manager, excuse me. So I've had 2 property managers for the longest time, and one I've been wanting to get rid of, right? But they had this it was just kind of difficult to get rid of them. Finally got rid of them, and just because of the setup it's a long story, but basically it was a little bit difficult to get rid of them. So I finally got rid of them, got my older property manager on the newer place, right? This new quad, the newer quad. And man, they're making so many changes. It's just great, man. So much. There was some deferred maintenance that I didn't know about. They're pushing up rents from like $715 to $825 a unit, dude. Like that's exactly. I mean, I didn't know. I haven't been like really as involved, so they're getting some tenants evicted, and like it's just going well, they already got the tenants evicted, excuse me, and they already got somebody moving in on the 15th. So perfect. It's just going very, very well, man. Like it's going very, very smoothly. So I'm looking to see some serious cash flow in what it used to only cash flow like $700 or $800 or so. And now with these new rent adjustments, once everything gets pushed up to 825, it'll be closer to 9-ish to almost a G. So I'm really happy about that, dude. I'm really happy about that. And just jumped up in equity, or just jumped up in price. I think that has to do with just the market right now. But got a decent amount of equity built in this bad boy. So I'm fine right now. I'm good.
Way to do it, man. That's good.
So pretty excited about that. But today's guest, we got Jason Burds. And he is from Military Bottom Line podcast, right? And he talks a lot to younger service members who are thinking about joining, or they're joining and trying to help them make the best decisions to lead them to success, right, Mike?
Yeah, man. And there's a few key things that he really hits on. He talks about the real difference in your decision-making process between like active duty and reserve and some of those missing components. But he also talks about not just using the benefits that we always talk about, but how to maximize the use of those benefits, right? He's talking about how a GI Bill can literally be the difference between a couple thousand and $100,000 worth of value. So, I mean, he drops a lot of golden nuggets, and I'm not even going to try to talk about everything that he does. So instead, let's get right to it.
What's going on, Military Cashflow family? Today we got Jason Burds who's going to be dropping some knowledge. Hey, thanks so much for coming on, Jason. Please let us know a little bit about yourself, who you are, and where you're from.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me on. I'm stoked to meet you guys. I already had a conversation with Mike, so it's cool to go full circle on this. A little bit about myself. I grew up in Vermont, like that state that nobody knows exists up in New England. And out of high school, decided to join the Marine Corps. Kind of a long story about that. I was like a horrible student in high school. I was like a C student at best. And kind of realized that like college wasn't for me. I was going to go to school, waste a bunch of money, and probably get in trouble. So I started thinking about the military. I went to talk to the Air Force recruiter, and they make their numbers super easily. And so he ghosted me on a meeting one day, and I'm waiting out in the cold up in Vermont, and the Marine Corps recruiter's like, pokes his head out the window. He's like, "Hey man, like, you want to come in and stay warm in here?" And I'm like, thinking he's just being nice, not giving any thought to his agenda. And then the rest is history. He suckered me in from there. And instead of joining the Air Force, I ended up in the Marine Corps at 17 years old.
Who would have thought, man, that the Marine Corps coincidence would have just got you in there?
Hindsight's 2020. They knew what they were doing.
That's a crazy story. Because I have a very similar story where I went to a Navy recruiter to go enlist, right? They sent me to the ROTC program, right? And I went to the Air Force ROTC program, the same exact thing that you're saying. Like they had easy numbers and everything, but they also weren't really matching funds the way that the Army was. But it was very, very similar where they were like, we don't need you, so we don't have to pay you any scholarship, But the Army was like, hey, we got this money over here.
It's crazy. Yeah, and if somebody wants the Air Force, like they got to be the ones that like they're patient and they wait it out until the recruiter's actually willing to put in the work.
No shade to the Air Force though. No shade to any of the services.
No, of course not.
Yeah, you guys are kind of bougie, but go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead and
finish. So then I finished out high school, left January 2011 for boot camp. Active duty, ended up as a aviation operations specialist. I didn't have any agenda when I went in. I was just like, whatever, just send me. And I ended up in California, Camp Pendleton, which ended up being like the sweetest freaking thing ever. And so I got to my first unit and like found out it was a non-deployable unit. And I started to realize like, all right, this 4 years is going to look a little bit different than I expected, and started thinking about like, how can I leverage this time to help me out, help future me out in some way. So I think after like the first 4 months there, got the approval to start using TA. And so just started taking advantage of the opportunities that existed there, since I knew like I wasn't going to be leaving, I was going to be there for, my contract. It was kind of like a lot of people call it the black hole, like if your first contract's there, you got to re-enlist to actually do anything. So, at the time, I kind of went through like some ups and downs with it. Obviously, like the culture of the Marine Corps is like, if you haven't deployed, you haven't done anything. And so, that's just kind of like a balance that you kind of figure out as you go. But I knew that I was making moves for myself to ensure future success, because that's all that I could do at the time. So I worked hard, did my job, pursued merit towards promotions, pursued boards, pursued college, and stacked as much money as I could in the process to ensure whatever I did next, having no idea what it was actually going to be, I'd be set up for that. And so I just enjoyed Southern California life, surfed, worked, and I was kind of like I was like barely in the Marine Corps. I was kind of like in the Air Force of the Marine Corps, if I'm honest. And so I consider myself very fortunate to have that experience. I've met the people I did, and I've really enjoyed the military to this point. Now it's like 10 years in now, and in different capacities, active duty, reserves, and now the National Guard. So it's been a ride, and I've enjoyed it.
Nice, man. Now let's go back real quick to that mindset shift that you mentioned. You kind of breezed over it like it wasn't a big deal, but you mentioned like the culture of the Marines says, hey, if you haven't deployed, you haven't done anything. Yeah. And to be quite honest, a lot of service members may feel that stress, right? If I haven't went overseas or done my thing, then I truly haven't served. Yeah. What was that? We'll talk a little bit more about that mindset, but then also what was the pivotal point for you to say, you know what? Let me take advantage of the opportunities that I'm presented, and let me really focus on, my professional development outside of just what the culture requires.
Yeah. That's good question. Yeah, I mean, at some point you just have to accept like whatever condition you're thrown into. Like, and that is part of the military, is accepting whatever they give you. Cause once you sign the contract, you don't really have a say in a lot of things. So, semper gumby kind of thing, and remaining flexible in that sense. And as far as like trying to find what opportunities existed, I don't even know really what led me to think like, okay, TA, my parents, my family is like super gung ho about college, whatever on that. But for me, it was free. And so to use TA, or to not use TA, would be a waste of free money. And so if it's $4,500 a year that they're willing to pay towards my education, I'd be a fool not to take that $4,500 a year. And then I learned on top of that, like there's opportunities to, use TA plus Pell Grant. And then you're able to get basically paid even more to go to school on active duty. And so that is where I found my leverage as a barracks Marine, I didn't know anything about real estate investing at the time. I never even thought of that, nor was I going to go buy a house in Southern California as a PFC, So I think it was just considering. I've always had kind of more of a long-term thought process and mindset, trying to think of like, what can I do now to make life a little bit easier down the road? And by fortune, I guess, and I guess that's how I was raised, just kind of like have a little bit of a long-term mindset that helped me pursue those opportunities and think of, what would benefit me now, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's key to, I mean, just like you and Mike both highlighted that stigma of, hey, if I've been deployed, I haven't really done anything. But I really like that, you took that opportunity and you're like, hey, let me develop myself a little bit and make the best of the situation that I have. There's nothing that you can do to change that, right? So the only thing you can do is to build upon where you're at and try to get to the next level. And that kind of, it seems like that's kind of a smooth transition. By you having that discovery, I assume that you've noticed a lot of other soldiers or other Marines, that have been kind of going through the same thing. Is that kind of what led you to starting to put this information out and highlight some of those things that you're talking about now, or some of those things that you preach now in the podcast?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody has their own reasons for not pursuing something. Unfortunately, I think most of us kind of join with a gung-ho attitude of wanting to do something great, make ourselves great. And after boot camp, when you get to the fleet, and it's very easy to just kind of like revert back to the way you were. And so I was fortunate that I kind of got stripped like through the training process, made friends at boot camp, made friends in my schools. But along the way, I ultimately got peeled away from all the friends I made. And I just found myself at Camp Pendleton having to make all new friends again, which at the time I was like, this sucks. Like, that dude ended up with his friend. But it enabled me and basically threw me into a group that was just really good for me. Like people can make friends in bad groups that bring them down. And those people, unfortunately, like if you get in a bad group, when you first join the fleet, like it's going to start you on a bad trajectory. And you don't really think about the impact that'll have long-term on your life. And so, I just thank God that like I found a good group, And so I think that those people that when they're joining the fleet and they get there, think about who you want to become, think about like where you want your life to go. And if you're starting to hang out with kids that are going drinking every weekend or like doing stupid stuff, then just, extrapolate that over 10 years or even just 4 years, a 4-year career, and think about like where that's going to take you. And it could be dangerous for sure.
The age old adage, you show me your 5 people that you hang out with and I can tell you who you are without really knowing. Right. So you want to associate with people that you aspire to be like, essentially, or at least have the same mindset. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I will say, you brought up a really good point. You go through the boot camp and AIT, and for many of us, especially the younger generation, or we're all young adults during that time.
Sure.
We're getting our first taste of freedom. We're getting our first taste of responsibility. We're going through our first real kind of tough situation, and the bonds that we create in boot camp and advanced individual training and job training, they actually are pretty damn tight. Mm-hmm. And we're thinking in our mind that these are going to be our friends for life.
Yeah.
But then we get into that cycle, that wheel of the military, and realize, hey, PCS every 2 years, every 3 years, right? We get deployments in different units. And you realize that the military is actually a fairly, I don't want to say lonely place, but it is very, it's fast moving.
Yeah.
Right. And so you're constantly finding yourself having to refine friends, reposition yourself in the right manner. And you said that you started off, and luckily you found the right, group for you. But what kind of advice or tips would you give out to somebody else who's always constantly searching for the right group, and they can't necessarily control who they're with at that time when they get, PCS or whatever the case may be?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, in hindsight, I mean, I don't know. I was far closer with people outside of the people I worked with than I was with the people I worked with. And maybe that's just a personal preference. If I'm at the office all day or on the field all day with these guys, like, I don't always want to go home and drink with those guys. I've heard everything you had to say all day long. You're not going to say anything different tonight. Let me go find somebody that's going to say something that's going to challenge me or going to make me think a different way. So you don't have to hang out with the people you work with. And that's not to take away from the camaraderie that is the military, because that's all part of it. But jump outside the box a little bit, meet somebody out in town, meet civilians, because eventually you're going to be a civilian again. So you don't want to totally give into this military culture where when you get out, you don't know how to act like a normal human being, So I think for me, it was really big. I started going to church out in town, and that's where a lot of my friend base came from. And a lot of them were vets, but they were, they've been out a while, long enough that I could learn from them about their transition, some of the benefits they were using. That's where I learned about house hacking initially. And so it's, I think seeking friendship and relationships off a base is a beneficial thing. Not to take away from the good relationships you make at work and on base. But I think, finding that balance is important.
Absolutely. There's too many times people feel like, I was just talking to one of the agents on our team not too long ago, and she's still fairly young, and she keeps talking about, how frustrated she is with her friends. She's hyper motivated, but her friends are doing this. And it's like, well, just like you said, you don't have to hang out with, a certain group of people, regardless, whether you work with them, go to church with them, whatever the case is. Yeah. So you get to choose. And I love that you kind of highlighted that. And hopefully for those people who feel like they're trapped, that's listening, that kind of clicked for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's definitely a hard transition, man. What Mike just talked, we're talking about right now, trying to find that right group of people. That's one of the hardest things to do. And you mentioned you kind of went out and you didn't really want to hang out with the same people that you hang out with all day. Hey, let's talk about something different, right? And you went to church. Where are some other places that guys listening could possibly go to find some like-minded individuals?
I mean, that's a good question. That's something I'm dealing with now. Is kind of life is kind of reshifted. COVID's kind of trickling off, and all right, where is my network now that people are actually returning to life? And so, I know there's all a personal preference. I'm not a big drinker, so I don't really care to meet people at the bars because that's their priority. I like physical fitness. I like doing things that are active. So if I'm surfing, I'll strike up conversation with people that are surfing. If I'm at a coffee shop, doing homework or reading, and somebody else looks like they're doing something productive, I'll talk to them. But I really like going to, I was on a drill weekend, and by myself, I just go to a fancier bar rather than a dive bar, because you're going to meet successful people at the fancier bar rather than the dive bar. So you kind of just typically, I know I'm generalizing, but yeah. But I learned about a whole new business model at that I had one beer, learned about this guy who ran a successful logistics company. And I'm like, dude, I didn't even know, it was a great conversation. And so I think you just kind of think about who you want to meet, what type of people you want to meet, what type of activities are you interested in, and then go those places.
Dude, I love that. Think about all the privates, and not to shit on the privates, but people in general who will go to the bar and meet somebody, right? And then they're like, "Oh, wait a minute, why are you, why are you cheating and going out all the time?" It's like, what? You met them there. What you think? So that's a good point. Go to the places. I always say with real estate, for sales and for lead generation, they always say, "Well, where should I market?" I say, "Well, if you were going to go fishing, you need to go where the fish are." Right. So it's the same concept there. If you're going to be looking to network, go to where those opportunities are. I love that.
Yeah.
You got conferences. That's where me and Mike met as well. It's like a perfect example. We're talking about building your network and meeting new people. I mean, go to those conferences, pay for the conferences. If they're $100, man, you might meet a business partner for life, dude. Like, I had no idea I was linking up with Mike and we're going to start this podcast, together, start this whole military cash flow thing. There's no way I would have known that, but had I not went to that concert, that opportunity would have never presented itself. Right. And I've met so many other great people, and I'm sure both of you can attest to the same thing. You meet so many great people at different places by putting yourself in those situations and strategically aligning yourself with people. You find like-minded people pretty much anywhere, but to Mike's point, go where the fish are. You go to a 10X growth conference, you go to a real estate conference or any other conference. I mean, these people are going there for a reason, right? It's very, very, very strong possibility that they have the same mindset as you do, right? So it's very easy to strike up conversations and build relationships out of those conferences and meetups. Same thing with the RIA meetups and all the masterminds, the same thing, dude. So definitely go take a part of those and get involved.
Yeah, the conferences is something I've never done before. I've never been to a conference because I've never had a job to send me to a conference. And I was like, well, I'm too cheap to pay for a conference. But now I'm recognizing like, all right, that cheapness on that kind of thing is holding me back. My cheapness about not buying a Camaro, that's a good thing, but I should pay the money to go to a conference and meet people. So that's a new thing that I'm learning, developing, and now I'm willing to like spend some money on that kind of thing because I recognize the value there.
I love it, man. That's exactly it. We have to figure out where's the value. We have to be willing to pay for opportunities and for value when it actually makes sense. Networking, self-education, professional development, all those things definitely make sense. And all that professional development on that, sense of essentially making yourself better. Your podcast is geared towards people considering joining the military. Right. And a lot of times when people join the military, they're looking to try a new adventure and make themselves better. Mm-hmm. What do you find is the most common reason or most common question that you face when they're saying, hey, I'm looking to join the military. What is what? What was the most common question that you're finding nowadays?
I wouldn't even say there's a common question. And like I've said a couple of times, like I'm not a recruiter. I don't care if you join the military or not. I just know that compared to the alternative of, 17, 18-year-olds taking out massive loans and going to college for whatever reason, it's a very good way to set yourself up for the long run. And so like I am fortunate to have fallen into it. Nobody like told me that when I joined. But to those that are thinking, like, it's not like one question that they are looking for an answer for. There is obviously a hesitation to trust recruiters. And so like I've done some calls, just Zoom calls with people that, drop a question on YouTube or something. I offer a Zoom call, whether they're pursuing a specific route, like how to become a pilot, or if they just kind of want to hear some unbiased reassurance of like, this is how it works. And, the recruiter's not totally lying to me. And then, other people that are like dealing with their parents wanting them to go to college instead. And so just kind of like reaffirming the things that are true, but also letting them know, there's always the downsides. There's always the reality of the military that you have to accept and deal with. But it's not, I wish it were as simple as like, there's one question that I could just answer and help everybody out. But it's case by case, just like everything else,
Yep.
So let's transition really quick to your podcast and what you're talking about. I mean, we've kind of hinted at it a little bit, but military bottom line, right? Where did that start at and why was it created? What was the reason for that?
So bottom line is obviously an accounting term. And so I started it. Yeah. I started it thinking like, all right, there are way too many young enlisted people making just horrible financial decisions that will set them back years if they ever actually recoup from these decisions. And so originally I wanted to talk to current service members or veterans about like how to help these guys and girls financially in that first 4-year contract. Because I think it really only takes one contract to like put you, decades ahead of what you would have done if you went to college. And so it started off that way, but then I found out like, I don't really agree. It's hard to find somebody I agree with every week about what they did with their money. Cause I'm maybe on the next level of like being cheap. And so it kind of turned into more general opportunities. Like what did you do in your time in the military that you didn't know existed when you joined, but you found out along the way? And so kind of like talk to people about like schools they went to, places they went to, jobs they didn't know existed, how to take advantage of tuition assistance or different opportunities and benefits. And a little bit, I still haven't found my exact niche, kind of like you guys mentioned. And at times it feels more of a conversation that, like if you were to sit, like I worked at a cafe when I was in high school, and like this old guy was like, oh, like my nephew's in the army or something, go talk to him. And I'm like 16. I'm like, I'm not going to go reach out to a stranger to ask these questions. So it's kind of like an effort to be a placeholder for that conversation, ask these questions, figure out what their experience is like, figure out how they used it to get ahead. Because, if you do 4 years and you're not in a better position than you were when you first joined, then like, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my thought process on it.
Yeah,
I like it, man. I like what you're doing. You're putting out a tons of value for those service members that, just like you said, are thinking about doing it. And what it's doing, I've looked through a bunch of, or I've listened to a couple of podcasts, but I haven't listened. Obviously, I haven't listened to every single one of them. You got like 50 episodes, but I'm making my way through. But what I do like is that you're highlighting individuals, right, and you're giving them a peek into what this field looks like, or what you could do with this option, right? So a lot of times that's the hardest thing for someone to figure out. It's hard to, especially if you don't have anyone. Like I'm, no one in my family's joined the Army, so I don't know anything about like different branches, or I don't know what this culture is like, or I don't know what my lifestyle is going to be like once I join. Yeah, I can look online, I can see how much money I'm going to be making, or I can see how much, some of the places I might be stationed at, but it's a different story. It's a different feel when you get someone's story, right? And they're telling you firsthand their experiences being in the field that you potentially might want to be in, right? So I think that's really important. And I love that you're highlighting those stories on top of just giving general, that general information for other service members out there. Because just like you, man, we're just trying to help other service members out make better, more informed decisions to eventually lead to success, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you can watch a bunch of movies, you can listen to a bunch of cool guy podcasts, and like, but dude, like so few people in the military are actual cool guys. And the military is not really like the movies at all. So, it's so hard to get a decent picture of what the life is like. And you're just like, I went in so blind, like it's just ridiculous, and I'm just very fortunate that, it went pretty well for me. Cause it doesn't go well for everybody that goes in blind. And so I just want less people to go in blind and kind of go in day one with a plan, whether or not they stay in for 4 years or 20 years, take advantage of it and do well.
Yeah, man. Dan already mentioned that we really love what you're doing because it's the young mind that's easily influenced. Just like you said, the military life, the military persona has been so romanticized over the years. Just like you said, not of the cool guys are cool guys. And even the guys that have cool guy jobs aren't cool guys. So like, it's not that way. And it sucks when somebody pours their life and their energy into something and their expectations are way up here, and then reality just slaps the living shit out of them across the face. Especially being that young, again, results into, mental issues that we have within the community and everything else. So what you're doing is excellent. Now you've said this several times now. You said, one contract can put you way ahead of where you would have been with college. You say that there's so many benefits. You say that, if you use the things correctly, the military can set you up for success.
Yeah.
Talk the audience through, what do you mean by one contract can set you apart? And go into some of those little details of those things that you really noticed that can kind of accelerate somebody's personal life. Sure.
So, I mean, we all know there's a lot of downtime. There's a lot of hurry up and wait, and the standard is to pull out your phone and like play a game or like text your girlfriend or swipe on Tinder, like nothing, absolutely nothing productive, And so it's like, dude, you could have a Kindle in your pocket. You could like have or even just your phone and just be more disciplined. Like you can use that time to learn. And even just something as simple as the additional time that, like, one thing I like to talk about is just saving money. Like if you get out of the military debt free, and instead of focusing on like buying a Camaro that's going to cost you $500 a month, but instead like saving that $500 a month, or starting to contribute to a Roth IRA at 18 years old, and you're maxing that out from 18 years old, that compound interest over the next 40 years is going to like far surpass, anything you could have done with your college degree in communication and starting earning maybe 50 grand at like 22 years old. So like taking advantage of that extra time and earning early will make a big difference down the road. And like, as you plan, cause like that transition, no matter, like I thought I was ready, it was still difficult, and so thinking about and strategizing, like, okay, a GI Bill is 36 months, but it's way harder, and like grad school is way more expensive than undergrad. Is it really smart to get out day one and rely on my GI Bill and use all my GI Bill for my undergrad when maybe I'm going to need graduate school to get to where I want in my career? So it's like, don't use your GI Bill day one. Use FAFSA, use scholarships. There's all kinds of discounts out there. I mean, I went to a California community college. It was $45 a credit for the community college. It's like, there were people using their GI Bill for that. It's like, why would you use your GI Bill for $45 a credit, Yeah. And so just kind of thinking like, there's an opportunity cost to everything. And so whether it be your GI Bill, which is essentially one big blank check, yes, you have to use it for a certain category, but it's still a massive blank check essentially. And you could use it for $10,000 in value, or you could use it for $100,000 in value. So I just kind of thinking about the opportunity cost, like everything you do in that 4 years is going to have an opportunity cost, whether it be compound interest or, either paid to you or paid to the freaking dealership, whatever you want to do. Saving and being frugal at that time. It's like, I'm still reaping the benefits from my 4 years active duty, and it's been like 8 years out now. So it's just, I mean,
yeah, we like to buy Chargers over here, no Camaros,
Yeah.
So. whatever, pick your poison, man. Whatever you want.
Man, so you hit on a really good point there. The GI Bill is something that I highly recommend everybody use at some point in their life. If they don't use it, to pass it off to their kids. But you hit on a key note that I don't think is really spoken about often. It's the opportunity cost. And literally a GI Bill can get you a degree across the board, right? But $45 a credit or $100,000, right?
Yeah, I have found I did one GI Bill video, was like one of the first videos I did on YouTube, and it's gotten tremendous feedback, and it's led me to dig into more GI Bill resources. And you can go to Harvard Medical School completely free using your GI Bill and a Yellow Ribbon program. 100% free.
That's legit how my wife paid for law school.
What's that?
That's legit how my wife paid for law school.
See?
Exactly, man. So that's worth like $250,000 or something crazy. Or you could use it at your community college and save like 10 grand, maybe. It's like, it's a no brainer. So, but the only way you're going to have that opportunity to make that decision is if you are frugal and saved money and planned ahead so that you could survive those first year or two outside of active duty, going to a community college, using scholarships and Pell Grant, and like maybe working a part-time job,
Yeah, I did the same. I used tuition assistance, worked a part-time job to pay for my bachelor's, saved my entire GI Bill. It gave me a master's from a pretty decent school, UNC at Chapel Hill.
Nice.
And the CCIM designation is going to also be completely covered by the GI Bill. So
Awesome.
I was able to get all of that covered. And you're exactly right. It's just, but obviously hindsight being 2020, we can look back and say, yes, we made great decisions. We had the foresight to do so. But I think, for everybody who's listening, who's kind of stuck in that situation, take that piece of advice right there and really apply it when you're thinking about your next steps, especially in the terms of a formal education. I think that's priceless right there.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah. The GI Bill is unfortunately underutilized, and even the ones that do use it, they could use it far more effectively,
Yep, exactly.
So we talked about the schooling, right? That's one of those things that people can think about as they're trying to join the military, are the young minds, right? The younger soldiers. It's not even just the younger soldiers. I mean, younger officers are the same way. I see them doing silly things as well.
They're not always any smarter,
You're right. So that's one thing. We got the education portion. What are some other things? I mean, we got, I think you're taking advantage of one right now with the house hacking piece, right?
Yeah.
So speak about that a little bit. So
this is, the house hacking, I've only gotten so bold recently, to me before taking on a mortgage was like, I ain't there yet, and I wish I was a little bit bold on it earlier when I first got out. But my wife and I bought a house hack duplex up in Vermont, end of 2019, which I was like, man, it felt like the top of the market then, but thankfully it wasn't. And so it's been a wild ride. We got married. I was crushing Bigger Pockets podcast episodes like all the time, trying to figure out I don't want to get married and live in an apartment for, who knows how long. So we were paying like $1,400 a month for a 1-bedroom apartment as newlyweds. And I'm like, we're just determined, we have to find minimum of a 2-unit. We'll look at 4 units, 2, 3, and 4 units. Couldn't find anything on the MLS. And so I went to my town tax assessor, asked for a list of every multi-unit property you have in the town, the addresses. We started writing letters to all the out-of-state owners. We were determined, we're going to find something. So every day we come home from work, all right, we're each writing 5 letters, handwritten, send them out, let's go. Those led to a lot of great conversations and meeting some people. Never actually materialized. We did end up finding one on the MLS that we went through, and on Bigger Pockets and generally the real estate, people analysis by paralysis or paralysis analysis, whatever it is, I really didn't want to find myself in that spot. And so basically I decided we're just going to send it. At some point we just had to send it. And Brandon on Bigger Pockets talks a lot about the first deal doesn't have to be a home run. Just don't lose money, essentially. I'm like, okay, I'm good with that. We're paying $1,400 a month right now for a 1-bedroom. As long as we're on par or better than that, we'll make it happen. So we kind of bought a fixer upper duplex. We've been, did all kinds of DIYs to it. Now we were originally doing, I think 700 after, the house hack rent coming in, 700 for a 3-bedroom, was able to refinance it. And now it's 400 for a 3-bedroom. So it's been awesome, and I've learned so much about the DIY portion of it that the whole intimidation when you see kind of a grungy property is now not even a thing, because I have way more confidence in my ability to fix these things than I did before. So
how did you finance that?
VA loan. Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. So that's that
I
piece. That's the second piece. So we talked to education, but no, you're good. And I love the story. I was going to kind of get into that anyways, but yeah. So we talked the education piece, right? That these are just advantage things that people should be thinking about while that first 4 years, right? Yeah. The education piece, how they're gonna leverage that, right? And then also the wealth building aspect of you buying a home with a VA loan, right? And the reason why I highlighted that you're house hacking is because you can buy the home with a VA loan, 0% down, right? You can do fix it up a little bit. You can rent the other one side out. You can live in the other side. and then you also get to pocket your BAH. Right.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that we talk about very, very often on the show for those that are active duty. Right. During your first contract, there's no reason why you can't do the same thing. So that those are just options that I really wanted to highlight. And I love that you took it and you went and you did the fixer upper route, the burst strategy, if you will, because you refinanced it and everything. So
yeah, it didn't start off as a burr. We just took advantage of the low interest rates,
But it worked, man. And, honestly, most of the things in real estate, you purchase it, pretty well up front, or at least you have a strategy, and then you take an opportunity that's presented to yourself later on down the road. And that's really what makes it a home run.
Yeah.
But what I just kind of want to reiterate what Dan said for the audience, guys. Listen, for everybody who's 16 through 18 and you're thinking, hey, should I join the military or not? You guys can go to college. You absolutely can. And skip the military route and figure out a way to finance it through scholarships, through grants, through working your ass off, or through student loans. And when you get out, you'll have a nice degree and you can search for a job. Or, like Jason's talking about, we can go and we can join the military. We'll now have our college paid for. We'd be able to go ahead and use all these other benefits to include VA loan, free health, all these other services and things of that nature, BAH, BAS, and you have an actual job. Now, 4 years later, same scale. You could both of you got a degree, but one of you has no debt, a house. You see what I'm saying? All these other things, a retirement account, thrift savings plan. And not to say, I'm not like pushing anybody to join, but just look at the opportunity there. 4 years, everybody's like, 4 years. 4 years in the grand scheme of things ain't nothing. It goes by like that. Every single one of us, Jason, you said you did 10 years, right?
Yeah, I've been in 10 years now. It's
gone, right?
Yeah.
It's just disappear like that. It goes by so fast. And I think, a lot of times when you're, especially the younger selves, especially all of us, I'm sure you guys felt the same way in high school. I was like, oh, I can't wait to be an adult. Oh, this is taking so long. As soon as I'm done, it's like, man, where the hell did time go? I got gray hair. I'm bald now. My back hurts. Dan grabbed the pillow. We saw that, man.
I saw that.
Your back hurts too, man.
Too funny.
That lower back's a problem. But the key thing to piggyback, like, everybody in the Army, everybody heard that on the safety briefs, right? To piggyback off what the commander says, Hey, but to piggyback off what Mike says, right? Hey, the biggest thing there in that success building journey is you got to go in with a plan. Right. So just because you join the military doesn't mean you're going to be set up for success. You got to go in there with a deliberate plan, man. Like, how are you going to utilize these benefits and use them to your advantage? Right. Because there's a lot of people that are joining the military and they're thinking that, I'm going to be great, but they don't have a plan. And then they get out in the same position that they were in, maybe even in more debt, or maybe put out, and they didn't want to be put out, you know what I mean? So hanging out with the bad crowd, like Jason was talking about earlier, right? So the key thing there is to make sure that you start with a plan. Same thing with the real estate. You make your money on your buy, right? Same thing with this, you don't join the military unless you have a plan for how you're going to get out after your first contract.
Yeah. I think also I've recognized, because I was guilty of it too when I first got out, was like my Marine card, like my veteran card will like get me into where school I want, or like it'll open these opportunities, and then you get out and you're like, wait a second, like everybody over here is a Marine. Like nobody gives a rip what I did or like how long I've been in, or that I was a Marine. Like, dude, like you have to prepare for more than just that. Like that is only going to get you so far, and it won't even get you that far, So you got to make your own path, make your own name, make your own way, and don't rely on like this veteran card thinking it like, oh, I'll read an essay and it'll get me into like a cool school or something like that. It doesn't work like that. So you have to prove your worth outside of that veteran card.
That's a really, really good point. Strong point.
That's an excellent point. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. How many times I've heard, the freaking fires dude, the freaking fire PFC, like, oh yeah, my buddy just got out, and we were or a mortar maggot or whoever it is, right? It's like, yeah, man, I'm getting out making six figures, dude, like because of my experiences. I'm like, nah, man. Stop it.
Well, that's also a little bit the recruiter's fault. Like, oh, like this job outside does this. And it's like, all right, it's not 100% that PFC's fault. Maybe they got a little bit misconstrued along the way. So they got to make sure that they fact check the fact checkers.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because honestly, it's beyond the recruiters. Think about how many parents are out there that for the parents that are encouraging people to join, because obviously you have both sides of the coin. But I mean, even my dad was like, son, if you join the military, you'll get this, you'll get that. You know, when you get out, hell, you can just go be a police officer. You'll be a shoo-in, right? And it's this weird misconception that not only the service members have, but for some reason, a lot of society has as well. That's not the case. That is not the case. You're exactly right. You have to set yourself apart, because once 30 Marines get out, 30 soldiers, 30 airmen all get out at the same time and all go for applying for the same job, who's going to win? You know what I mean? It's all the same. So it's a really good point.
Yeah, man. Hey, so let's dive in into a little bit more into the real estate thing. I just had a couple more questions, right? So you got out, or you didn't get out. You're in the reserves, right?
I'm in the Guard now. So I left active duty, go to the IRR voluntary drill status. That's when I kind of realized, like, wait a second, there's like way more opportunity than just active duty. I didn't think I was going to be in this long, but I just kind of kept on keeping my foot in the door, and here I am.
So actually, scratch the real estate thing. Why did you decide to do that?
All right. So I thought I wanted to be a doctor. Like, that was my childhood thing. And so I left active duty thinking, like, all right, let me start this road. It's going to be a long one. It's going to suck, whatever. But then, like, a year and a half in, internship at the hospital, whatever, I'm like, this sucks. But though I skipped something. So on my way out of active duty, there were these cops that came from upstate New York every winter in like February. They left upstate New York, came to San Diego for some like drill days. And I'm like asking them, like, what are you? How are you coming here like for a month and then you leave? What is this? And that's when I learned about the IMA, Individual Marine Augment, which is basically you drop to the IRR, you know, like you got 4 years active, 4 years IRR time, and it's a non-obligatory drill status. So essentially you drill with an active duty unit that is willing to bring you on, but you're in the IRR. If you do it for a day and you say, I don't want to do this anymore, you just stay in the IRR, and you can just like not come to work the next day. And so they told me about that opportunity. I'm like, I'd be an idiot to like, there's no obligation. Why would I not? And so because I was going to school in California, like I was living right next to Palenton anyways, I'm like, this is like, let's try it out, whatever. And it ended up being a great summertime job. Essentially, I go to school all year round, do nothing with the Marine Corps for a year. And then I go work full time for 2 months. And then I go back to being a student, and then do nothing for a whole year, and then go back to school.
And when you only got paid when you were working though, right?
Yeah.
But it's still great. Yeah, no, it's awesome. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, cool.
But it enabled, just because of like where the anniversary years and points, and it gets, you know, you guys know. Yeah. But because of where the school year felt with my anniversary year, I was able to just work for 2 months in the summer, and it would give me a satisfactory year towards retirement. And I got all the points. I did what they wanted me to do. Then I go back to school and I focus on that. And then I just realized, like, wait, like, how does this even exist in the military? This is an unbelievable amount of flexibility I never even knew could exist. And so that's kind of when I was like, let me keep finding out like what more exists in the military. And so then I just kind of keep pursuing the next opportunity and finding the next thing and seeing what exists. And, you know, I haven't had a good reason to just cut the cord yet. So I'm like, let me just keep going. So that's worked out.
So you're in Vermont, and then every once a summer or whenever you want to, right? Because it's non-obligatory, you to go back to California and then go.
So I did that for a little bit. And then I ultimately switched over to the National Guard just because logistics wise made it easier.
And so one thing I want to highlight for the audience is you said it, but you wanted to be a doctor. And then now, you know, things change. For everybody who feels lost in the world and feels like, oh, but I was supposed to be this, believe me, all of us feel the same.
I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. You know?
Exactly. So everybody who's always concerned, like, oh, this has to be the path. This has to be the plan. Don't beat yourself up. Things always change. So I just wanted to highlight that. And then the second thing is that, I mean, hell, you went from active to the non-obligatory IRR status. Beautiful. Then you moved over to the Guard, right? And there's so many ways that if you truly want to serve in one way, shape, or another, or if you really want to get some of those benefits the military has, there's so many ways to slice that pie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's so many opportunities out there for you to do it, but not necessarily full on commitment. Or not. And I wanted to ask you, based on your active time, your non-obligatory reserve time, and your National Guard time, what would you say is probably the biggest difference besides actually the time commitment, right? The biggest difference. And what would you say would be a personality's choice that would be a best fit for each, if that makes sense?
So I have, like, this is also something that I try to, if I were to talk with everybody who's thinking about joining, I would like figure out like, what are you actually joining for? Because if it's school, if it's, if you have a certain reason why you're joining, not just because like you're lost in the sauce, there is a most effective and efficient route for you to go. If it's because you want school and you just want to go to school for free and get like an MD, there is like the most effective way for you, and so would I encourage somebody to go to active duty versus guard or reserves? Like, it's all case by case. And so I think, for some people, the guard out of the gate might be the best option. For other people that just need to get out of their hometown and get out of Dodge, like active duty hands down is the best option. So I think that's part of like doing your homework and like talking, like I'm not like self-plug, but like, that's kind of like, I've been doing a little bit of consulting, trying to figure out what do you want in the military? Okay. Like, let's stop wasting time. Like, you don't need to do 4 years to get schooling paid for free. There's a better way to go about it where you can just get school paid for right now and then like do whatever you want to do. So yeah, as far as the biggest difference, that's a hard one. I mean, I like the guard because everybody for the most part in the guard who's a traditional guardsman has their own separate ventures, like they're doing whatever they're doing in a civilian career. And obviously they have to like prove a certain amount of worth to be able to survive in the civilian world, which I, no hate on the active duty, but like, it's some people, they get really comfortable in active duty. Not everybody. So I want to make that clear, but like, it's just, I think that leadership is a little bit different. Not always better, but sometimes they bring some like civilian experience into the workforce that can be promising. But you still have the active duty components of the guard that can kind of like go ahead. So like, what's the main difference? I probably should have thought of that question before, but
that's what we're
it's a good question. It's a good question.
Curveballs. Yeah. And I think you stated it. I mean, what to me, just kind of rephrasing what you said was that the difference would be the type of, and maybe insights, right? Or contributing factors in the guard they're going to vary because you do have those civilian experiences from their professional careers coming in versus, so if people don't know, I was in the guard originally before I went to active duty. And active duty, when you're E8, Master Sergeant, First Sergeant, or whoever, when they're coming down, every single one of their story references are back in 03, back in 06, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But and in the guard, somebody may come in and be like, hey guys, over at the Goodyear plant, this is how we operate front of this thing. So the varying perspectives, there you go. I think it's probably a really good point.
Yeah.
Hey man, it's funny that you guys mentioned that because my wife she was in the reserves for about like 10 to 12 years prior to going active, right? And throughout that time, that's one thing that I noticed, because I would go around her unit every now and again, and that's one of the main things that I noticed is that you'd have like a specialist or a private that was like a city elected official, or like legit like an attorney, like a big time attorney, and they're there for some of them were there for like healthcare reasons, because you get really good healthcare in the reserves. It's a lot cheaper than the outside, but that was always kind of strange to me, because on the active duty side, there's a different feel when you're talking to different, like if you're talking to like lower enlisted, or even you're talking to like junior officers than you are when you're talking to like senior officers or senior NCOs, right? But in the reserves, it wasn't like that. It's like, at least when I was around that unit, right? I would talk to certain people, but everyone, it seemed like everyone had a general understanding of a different level of like respect and kind of, I don't know, like something about them you could tell. It's like, all right, well, this person clearly has experience, not just in the military, but they clearly have experience in life, right? And you can always tell when you're talking to someone that has like experience, like life experiences, right, that they can bring versus someone who doesn't really have as many life experiences. For example, in the active duty, we'll talk a lot about hey, we got to do your health and wellness inspection. We got to come to your barracks and actually check and make sure you're living okay and you're actually clean, like these little simple things. Well, when I talk to those people over there in the reserves, like, what do you mean you got to come to my house? I'm a grown ass man, like what are you talking about? I've been paying my bills for a long time. Like there's a lot of different nuances that's different there. So that's it's just funny that you say that. I'm now just really thinking about that. So
yeah, one of the unique things about the Guard, everything I understand, is that you can join the Guard like as long as you can retire before 60. You can join. So you can have 40-year-olds like join, and they're like a PFC. And it's like, I just need healthcare. Let me join the Guard. And it's like, dude, you're not going to talk to a 40-year-old like they're an 18-year-old private. Like, so there's definitely that dynamic difference with the Guard that does not exist in active duty for sure.
Great. All right. So we talked some great things here, just especially I think this episode was mainly for, those who are thinking about joining or those in their first 4 years of the contract, which I think is phenomenal because I don't think too many people speak to that specific audience, right, directly to them in regards to the benefits that you can have and how you can set yourself up for success. But with that said, we're going to start wrapping up just a little bit.
Sure.
And if you had one piece of advice that you could give to someone that's in there that first 4 year worth of their contract or about to thinking about joining, just one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
I would say read Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. I think laying that foundation as a young enlisted in the first contract, like you're going to graduate from that mindset, but if that is your foundation, I think you'll do well. And so, you start there, remain debt free, save, start that retirement plan, and graduate from there. But use that as the foundation.
I actually really like that, man. I haven't heard that yet, but I mean that's a great financial perspective to come straight out the gate with. There's so many books out there, guys. So don't get overwhelmed with all the financial knowledge that is out there. Is accessible. Find something very similar to like Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman. I really don't care who it is, but find something and just understand what the principal practices are. Have that foundation, just like Jason's talking about, which would be fit. I mean, that would set you up. If I had my mind right then, it'd be a whole different ball game now. Yeah. So obviously, you have a podcast, you have a platform, you have social media. A ton of people are going to want to reach out and they're going to want to see the type of tips and insight that you have. So how can people find you?
Cool. Yeah. I got YouTube. I've got Instagram, Military Bottom Line. The podcast Military Bottom Line exists on all podcast platforms. But I spend most of my time on YouTube, Instagram. And so that Instagram is the best way to send me a message if you want to chat, if you got any questions. But I've been getting more consistent with posting on YouTube in addition to just the podcast, posting things about, education benefits, different VA benefits. And so, yeah, there's a lot of resources on there.
I love it, guys. And if you guys, all the Military Cashflow family, you guys know that this is all love here, right? There is no competition. We are all here trying to help spread the message and spread the information to the veteran community. So please, everybody go check out his page, all of his social media, his YouTube, go like, go subscribe. And with that being said, Dan, what should they do with our channel?
Hey, do the same thing, man. If you listen to it on podcast, leave us an honest review. If you're watching it on YouTube, make sure you hit the like button, the subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you can get these great episodes and hear these great people like Jason Burds. The dude looks like a model over here, man. You could tell he was in California for like the longest time, dude. Like Yeah. So, so just do those things. If you would like, join the Facebook group. We have a very large group of service members that are helping each other build wealth and create cash flow through real estate. So please join the Facebook group. And then lastly, if you're looking for a realtor in your area, regardless of where it's at, and you want an investor friendly and military friendly realtor to help you along your real estate journey, please let us know. Go to militarycashflow.com, militarycashflow.com, and hit the little realtor tab there, and we'll help you out. You like what I did there?
It sounded like you practiced that in your mirror for the past week. It sounded like, oh.
Yeah. Hey, and with that, this is Dan Wynn
and Mike Glassby
signing off.